We're all familiar with the pain of customer service. I don't know about you, but when I have to call a 1-800 number, I get a little bit of a panic attack. Well, in this session, we're going to examine how to ensure that customer engagement can be frictionless and frustration-free. Hi, I'm Catalina Kowal, and I am a customer engagement and experience specialist at AWS. And today I'll be joined by Dr. Fernando, Director of Support Services for the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts at University of Michigan, and my colleague, Greg Smith, Specialist Solutions Architect. And we're going to discuss how to improve constituent, student, employee engagement, leveraging the cloud, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. So back to that customer service experience. We've all tried to do something like make a payment or apply for a service using an online portal. But we always run into an exception that is unique to us that we cannot solve in that portal. An option isn't there, or information isn't displayed correctly, or in my case, just over the weekend, I decided to stay an extra day here in DC, and I tried to modify my hotel information, or my hotel checkout, and I could not pick Thursday. Strangely, I could pick Tuesday, and I could pick Friday, but I couldn't pick Thursday. An exception. So what do we do in these circumstances? Well, we navigate the website for a phone number. Now, typically you have to scroll all the way to the bottom of the page to get to that phone number, but once you find it, then you make that call. And assuming we're calling during business hours, we navigate a menu that always tells us to listen carefully because our options have changed. Then and only then do we have a path to get to an agent. And we do all of this, even though we hear a bunch of options that we could have taken care of online, because remember, we have the exception. And we need to get to human help. And by the time we've navigated the automated prompts, and entered a PIN number, and waited on hold for hopefully less than 10 minutes, but likely not, finally get connected to an agent, share our mother's maiden name, and really explained what has happened to us and why we're there, we've created a customer engagement experience that is full of friction, frustration, and has taken entirely too much time. Well, there is a solution, and today we're going to share it with you. First, we'll start by discussing the customer engagement journey and what Amazon's vision is for that journey. Next, you'll get an overview of Amazon Connect, which is a simple-to-use cloud contact center solution that can enable you to realize that customer engagement experience. We'll hear from Dr. Fernando and learn about how LSA at the University of Michigan has implemented Amazon Connect to better serve their students, faculty, and staff. And finally, we'll wrap up with a demonstration of a couple of the outcomes that you can achieve with Amazon Connect. So let's talk about that customer engagement journey that I was discussing. This is the path that starts with a customer, a student, a constituent trying to get something done with your organization. And there are two vectors in that journey. The first is service type. So there's self-service, something that I as a customer complete on my own, and then there is live assisted service, which is essentially interacting with an agent. Increasingly, customers and individuals want more self-service options, but there's always an exception. And in those cases, an escalation to an agent is necessary. Now, in order to create a frustration-free and frictionless experience, there has to be a warm handoff between these two service types. Information about the site I was on, error messages I may have received, a transcript of my interaction with the chatbot, all of that should be seamlessly delivered to the person that's going to handle my exception. The second vector is channel. Now there's a bunch of sub-channels under this, but the three main ones are voice, web, and mobile. The channel I choose as a customer is typically the channel that I want to stay on. However, the options that I have on the phone are typically not the options that I have online, and vice versa. In other words, access to both meaningful self-service and live assisted service may not be available depending on how I choose to engage. In the past decade, public sector organizations have made significant investments in offering self-service. And they've primarily been focused on the web channel, so applying for services, checking the status of those applications. Those are all online transactions and typically not available when calling in. Alternatively, live trained humans are typically not available on the web when I need them. So this is the customer journey that Amazon has. Amazon's vision for that journey is to provide equitable access to dynamic and natural self-service and a seamless handoff to live informed assisted service on all channels, web, voice, and mobile. Amazon's vision for this journey includes authentication mechanisms so that the transaction is secure. It includes easy access or simple access to user data that may exist in other external systems of record in order to create these meaningful self-service experiences. Then, if an agent is necessary, intelligent routing to get to the most capable agent that can handle, sorry guys, I don't know where that went. A capable agent that can handle that interaction and solve the problem for the user. Once that agent is engaged, giving them access to as much context, as much relevant information and real-time feedback so they can quickly help that user, all from whichever channel that user prefers. Once that live interaction is complete, it's important for organizations to have access to the data about how those interactions went so that they can continue to improve both the agent experience and the customer experience. Now, all of this has to be natural, intuitive, dynamic, and personalized. And it has to evolve because expectations of customers continuously grow. So the components to create this journey need to work seamlessly together and be able to evolve together. Here at AWS, at the heart of creating this experience is Amazon Connect. Amazon Connect is a simple-to-use, cloud-based contact center that enables organizations of any size to deliver exceptional omni-channel experiences that are natural, dynamic, personalized, and secure. Wait, AWS has a contact center? You sure? Yes, we do. It might not make sense off the top, but if you think about AWS's origin story and the fact that it was born from a need to have efficient compute, storage, and database for Amazon retail, then it kind of makes sense. Similarly, Amazon Connect was born from the need that Amazon Retail had to offer scalable, flexible contact center solution. They went out to the market and they did not find that solution. So in AWS fashion, or rather in Amazon fashion, they created it on their own. That solution was battle tested for 10 years internally, and in 2017, Amazon Connect was launched as a service. So I have a secret. Omni-channel communications, self-service, automation, context-rich interactions, AI-powered virtual assistants, they're not new concepts. They've been aspirational concepts in contact centers and customer engagement for a long time. So if that's been available, how come every single contact center doesn't have these options? Well, if you ask, and I'm sure many people in this room might agree, if you ask a contact center person, why is this moving? Sorry. Oh. Here you go. Okay, if you ask a contact center individual, they will tell you that it's because it's costly, it's risky, it's complex, and it takes a ton of time. So how is Amazon Connect different? And how does it help customers realize these outcomes? Well, first, we make the barrier to entry incredibly low. Anyone in this room with an AWS account can quickly spin up a contact center, claim a phone number, and start taking interactions within 5 minutes. You can follow a tutorial online to help you design contact flows, manage agents, and track performance metrics, all without even letting us know. You don't have to hire a partner to issue a PO, to do this, to do that, to get you started. In fact, we had a lot of customers go this route during the pandemic when their contact centers could not scale to meet the demand. Second, we pack the most critical contact center functions that have traditionally been bolt-ons in legacy contact centers natively into the solution. True omni-channel engagement, both chat and voice. Text-to-speech capabilities. This is one that customers really love. You don't have to wait for somebody to record your prompts if you want to start a new contact center, or if you want to make a change, you can do that quickly without waiting for somebody to record them. Skills-based routing and call and chat recording are all natively parts of the solution, right out of the box. Next, with artificial learning and artificial intelligence and machine learning embedded into the platform itself, it makes it easy to automate interactions, to understand customer sentiment, to authenticate callers, and to enable capabilities like consistent self-service across all of your channels. Amazon Connect comes out of the box with real-time dashboards and historical reports, but you have the ability to export or stream those contact detail records to the data warehouse of your choice to analyze with the tools of your choice. Now, this is probably the most important part. Finally, there are no upfront fees, no licenses, no minimum agent counts. You only pay for what you use. So you can start small and scale at your own pace. In fact, this paradigm enabled our customers to try Amazon Connect, usually on a small scale. Hey, let's try this on that small contact center over there, or let's try this at help desk, where it's internal and it won't disrupt anything if it goes sideways. And we've enabled customers to then test and experiment and innovate without the typical risk and the magnitude of effort that is common in traditional contact center solutions. Sorry about that. Yep, that's it. Okay, so let's dive a little deeper and investigate how Amazon Connect gives contact centers more flexibility than they've ever had. As I mentioned, you get this out of the box. You get a visual contact flow designer. You get a browser-based agent desktop that can be accessed from anywhere. Hello, work from home. You get access to your recording and transcripts, any agent data and metrics that your contact center generates. So robust enough to get you started. And as organizations start to tune and personalize their customer experiences, it becomes necessary to interact with external systems of record. So we enable you right from the contact flow designer to dip into these systems of record. Customer databases and CRMs are a couple of examples. And while you can build a custom integration for your particular customer database or CRM, there are solutions that have already been built. For example, connectors exist today for solutions like Salesforce and ServiceNow, among others. Because the integrations can be leveraged right from the contact flow, and you can use a single contact flow for both voice and chat, this means that you can offer consistent self-service across your different channels. And you don't have to redo the work for voice and redo the work for chat. On the operational side, we give you access to all the data that your contact center has generated. You can then freely export, store, and analyze your data however you wish with whatever tools you wish. And then you can use that information to further evolve your contact center experience. The last reason I'll discuss today about what makes Amazon Connect so different is the ongoing innovation. In the last 5 years since the product was introduced to the market, the Amazon Connect team has been responsible for over 150 new features, it's probably more than that now, to help organizations innovate experiences for their customers. So let's take a look at some of the most recent innovations. And then also you'll understand where some of our areas of focus are as we continue to innovate. In order to level up omni-channel offerings, we've added enhancements to our chat widgets, like little tiny enhancements, being able to create interactive cards, for example, so that the user interaction is simpler, or using rich messaging in order to make a cleaner look. We introduced Voice ID, which enables organizations to, within the IVR, identify if a caller is who they say they are, just by listening to the sound of their voice. Agent empowerment is a big area of investment for us as well. And so we introduced real-time wisdom last year. And this is a mechanism that leverages speech analytics and natural language processing to, to identify issues during calls and then surface the correct information to an agent right on their agent desktop so that they don't have to go play Alt-Tab commando and start looking for the information elsewhere. We've also launched the Amazon Connect Unified Agent Experience, or the Unified Agent application, which is a dynamic single pane of glass user for an agent. And then finally, we enhanced customer profiles. Customer profiles is a mechanism that allows you to aggregate multiple sources of customer information and then allows you to reconcile all that information so you don't have multiple records for the same user. You can then take that information, and this is where I think it all really comes to light, then you can take that information and access it right from the contact flow in order to make routing decisions for your users. No coding required for that one. For example, let's say you have a repeat caller that calls in. You can take their caller ID information, look them up in the in the customer profile, and then greet them by name through the IVR. Next, we move to routing, orchestration, and automation. This one's really cool. The automated chatbot designer will analyze thousands of lines of conversation transcripts in hours rather than weeks, and will then allow you to develop a chatbot faster. We also have high volume outbound communications. This one is really receiving a lot of interest. The need for customers to make external outbound outreach to their constituents, to their students, et cetera. I'll give a couple of examples of that. For example, appointment reminders, or maybe, I don't know, I'm saying it for a friend, but maybe your registration expired and you get pulled over and you didn't know. It might have been nice to have a text message telling me that their registration had expired. For analytics, insights, and optimization, we've introduced call summarization. So if you're familiar, an agent task that has to be completed at the end of a conversation is a summary of that conversation to go into that customer contact record. We have a mechanism that identifies issues, outcomes, and actions within a conversation and then appends that to the contact record. It also sends that to the supervisor as well, so that the agent does not have to spend time in order to create a call summary. And then last, there's forecasting, capacity planning, and scheduling. I won't say WFM. But it is the ability to leverage the information in your contact center to accurately or predict the volume that you might expect, or the average handle time predict agent handle times for a specific time of day, so that as a contact center administrator, you can staff your contact center appropriately to meet the needs. So let's recap. Amazon Connect is easy to get started. It is robust with little risk. It natively leverages AI and ML to help you create personalized experiences for customers and users. It reduces complexity of integration into external systems of record. And here at AWS, we're always innovating. We're always innovating on the experience and asking for user feedback, as well as really digging into what a customer experience should look like, and innovating and introducing features that will allow you to unleash innovation in your contact centers, and helping you create frustration-free, frictionless, and dare I say, delightful customer experiences. Up next, let's turn it over to Dr. Fernando, who's going to share their journey at LSA at University of Michigan.
All right, thanks, Catalina. How's everyone doing? Good? It's the afternoon, right? It's hard after lunch. All right. So I am really excited to be here to share our story implementing Amazon Connect at our College of Literature, Science, and the Arts at University of Michigan, and how we have really been able to create that delightful experience for our students, staff, faculty. So before I jump in to talk about our implementation of Amazon Connect, I want to talk a little bit about, give you a little bit of a context of about our college and the university as a whole. Most of you are probably familiar with University of Michigan, but let's talk a little bit about LSA. So we're 20,000 students, 1,600 faculty, 1,100 staff across 75 different departments. We're one of the 19 colleges within University of Michigan. And we are, of course, the largest of the colleges in the University of Michigan system. Well, I shouldn't use the word system. It's the University of Michigan. Now, when I say we're the largest of the colleges, we could be our own university if we choose to be. If you look across the universities across the nation, the scale that we operate, we're probably larger than 80% of the colleges, the universities in the nation. So we've operated at scale. That's really the message I wanted to share with you. So when we started looking at solutions around contact center solutions, we really wanted to create this delightful experience as something that I've been preaching all my career, and how do we do that to enable our students, staff, faculty to do the work that they want to get done? How can we improve the student experience? How can we create student success? How can we get out of the way of technology barriers that prevent them from achieving the goals that they wanted to achieve, right? So we started looking at various solutions out there. I've had experience implementing a traditional call center solution at a previous institution that I worked at, but many of those things take a considerable amount of time. And of course, and then looking at some of the contemporary features that we're looking for, like, anytime when you call into a call center these days, the things that you get, like being ability to leave your phone number, get callback, being able to have a chat, being able to share information through like if somebody's using a cell phone, where you can share your knowledge-based articles over a chat, over a text message. Many of those contemporary features are still kind of lagging behind in the traditional telecom-based systems. They're just not there. Most of you, well, some of you at least who have children will tell you they're very much more comfortable in the social, mobile, digital space than personal interactions, right? So if we're looking at creating this delightful experience for the largest community, the constituent that we want to support, we need to meet them where they feel comfortable. But unfortunate fact is that most university call centers tend to be relying on the existing traditional telecom-based call centers that only offer, like, you can either call in or you can get an email if you're lucky to take as an intake method. So none of those things really help the students to create that experience that we're trying to create. So with that in mind, we started looking at the solutions that's out in the market, and we came to like what Amazon had to offer. We actually learned that our central IT organization was already using Amazon Connect, but they were at the early stages, so they haven't really been able to leverage some of the contemporary features, but they're on that path. So the value proposition for us was really to create this experience. We started looking at, well, it's not just from the student perspective or the customers that we serve, but also from our agents' perspective. What are the key things that make this a compelling solution for our agents? What can they do to make this a more seamless experience for them? So these multi-channels, like whether it's a chat or whether it's a phone call or email, any of those things, it could be presented through the same interface, which makes the agent experience so much more easier, so you're not kind of going from your ticketing system to a call, telephone interface to a email inbox, right? All that is presented through the same interface. And of course, most of you who are familiar with running call centers or service desk operations will tell you data is the king, right? You want to be able to measure everything to the minute and make adjustments, how many agents you're going to have, what's your first call resolution, all those things are readily available. So that data is on a dashboard. This data that I've just put this graph at the bottom is directly from the AWS Connect interface. Now, in the traditional systems, you have to collect that data from multiple sources and put them into Excel and map them out. Right? This is what we were doing before, what's on the top. So you don't have to do all those manipulations. They're readily available. You can feed that data into a visualization software, whatever the visualization software, the BI software that you're using, you can use them to make decisions very quickly. And then we didn't really go after this as a cost-saving solution, but we learned along the way that because we already have an in-house telephony system that we were using, so it's kind of a sunk cost for us. However, as we started using this, we learned that there are considerable cost savings because we were actually paying our central IT organization for the telephone lines that we were using. So all that kind of went away as a result of implementing Amazon Connect. All the agents, they're all soft phones implemented on the laptops, and this also played really well with the COVID situation that we were facing at the time with having to have staff working remotely. So now they were able to take their laptop home and be able to dial in and support our customers. Ease of use and training. I mean, Catalina talked about the speed to market, right? How quickly we were able to spin this up and get going. So we did this in a record time of 4 months. Now, out of those 4 months, 3 months of that time was really spent actually just training staff and getting them accustomed to using the system more so than it's kind of going through the organizational change management challenges more so than the implementation. The implementation probably took a relatively short time. I have my implementation team here, so feel free to reach out to these folks out at the front. If they have any technical questions, they will be able to help answer any of those. So we're really pleased with what we have been able to accomplish. So what's next? Well, before we talk about next, I want to talk a little bit about Amazon in terms of the full support experience that we were able to get from Amazon to be able to implement this solution. So we started our journey by talking with the account manager. We have a dedicated account manager for the university. We reached out to Patrick. I don't know if he's here in the audience. I don't see him. But anyway, so he got us connected with the technical consultant, and we were rolling. Before even, within a week, we were spinning up the system. And then, of course, it's a full service experience. I say that because once we get the system up and running, there is the regular break fix support that's available 24/7. Anytime we can reach out to technical consultants. And Kevin, I see at the back. Thank you, Kevin. He's always on the phone anytime we have any issues to help us to resolve them. We have the luxury of reaching out to them. And I can't say the same. I mean, mean, we deal with many, many vendors, and that's not always the case. So, and then so some of the other things that we come to learn along the way is these immersion sessions that they offer, where if you have a specific problem that you want to solve, you can reach out to them, and they will send out their technical experts, and you can sit side by side with them and work through the issue. So we're just actually getting started using that capability to do our data visualization. And of course, you can leverage the resources for application architecture meetings if you wanted to kind of plan this out, sit with one of the subject matter experts, work through an architecture, how this is going to play. Because some of these things that are outside of the AWS Connect, like you may have already a ticketing system. So there may be times you might need to have to integrate the two to say, especially if you're using like a chat feature, you want to be able to take that chat feature and log that directly into your ticketing system, right? You don't want to have your agents cut and paste stuff, right? You don't have to do that anymore. And then, of course, the professional services. So if there are specific issues, some of these have, I think the last one certainly have a cost associated, but many of them are freely available to you through your Amazon partners. So what's next for us? We're really excited that we have this solution in place because, like I mentioned, our next goal is really to get into that social media space. How can we take intake from TikTok, or whether it's Instagram, I was going to say Facebook, but students don't use Facebook anymore. So those other social media platforms that our students are really comfortable with, and how can we use those as a way to intake? And then we've already rolled out chat, and that's been so popular. We kind of did a soft launch with that. We didn't really go out and broadcast because simply we wanted our agents to feel comfortable to handling chat, which we haven't done in the past. So even with that soft launch, people have already found out this is available, and it's become one of the most used intake methods for us in a relatively short time. We're excited about that avenue, and then of course some of the other new features that Amazon continue to innovate in this space. The data integration, the data visualization is something we're working on. We're trying to get all the current data that's available. We wanted to kind of import them into our tools that we're using for visualization of that data. So I feel like we've really positioned ourselves to be really create that delightful technology experience for our students going forward. With that, I'm going to hand over to Greg. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fernando. Hi all, I'm Greg Smith. Let's start discussing the different types of personas in a contact center. I like to split this up into a couple of different categories. We have the customer experience, we've got an agent experience, and admin and supervisor experience. So let's take a closer look. Bob's the customer, and he's having some flu-like symptoms. He'd like to contact the local state or county agency for guidance. He has some general questions, he'd like to set an appointment, and he might want to call or chat with someone for some help. Greg, that's me, I'm the agent, needs information about the call or the chat routed to him. Who's the constituent, and what's the contact about? This information should not be collected manually. Once connected with Bob, that information should automatically be provided to the agents about the topics that he's calling about or contacting about. Finally, the admin and supervisor need to be notified if there's an escalated conversation in real time in order to help the agent through those tough interactions. This is where we start Bob's journey. This could be a phone call to the Health and Human Services Department, a chat from the HHS website, an SMS message, or even a message from Facebook Messenger. It starts with the contact. Amazon Connect provides the contact flow, with Amazon Lex providing the virtual agent the ability to answer his questions, find a location near him, as well as schedule that appointment. If Bob still needs to connect with an agent, all of the interaction is provided to the from the virtual agent is passed to the agent that answers that call. The contact ID inside of the HHS CRM system is going to pop up with all of the information provided right to the agent's fingertips, ready to address Bob's additional questions. For the demo, we're going to start first with the user experience in a digital channel. This is going to be a web chat. I'll show you the conversational natural language processing that provides the same user experience for any voice or digital chat channel. The artificial intelligence tools of Amazon's Q&A bot allows Bob to ask any question to search the HHS knowledge base. Then we will show you how to automate the workflows and provide a better customer experience with easy-to-use self-service tools that are frictionless. So this is the demo. We've got a web page here. We're going to open up the chat widget. This brings up the Lex self-service interaction. What can I help you with? Bob has questions about his COVID questions. We've programmed the system in 3 different languages by default. How do I show proof of vaccination? The system is going to reference the database, use the artificial intelligence to be able to respond with the most germane answer. Not only can we provide information back, but we can also provide links. Ask another question. When should I get tested? This is going to return back some additional information, again, talking about when someone should get tested, as well as the website that they should attend to get additional information. Finally, where can I get tested? This talks about finding a location near you, allows the option to go back to the main menu to schedule that appointment. We're now coming back to the main menu, and what can I help you with? Schedule an appointment. It's now going to go ahead and look for the zip code to be able to look up the closest location to Bob. It's going to provide that information back, doing a data dip. Now, what kind of appointment do we want? Vaccination or a booster? Now the system's going to go through an identity check. Who are you? We're going to collect some information. First name, last name. It's going to ask for the phone number. It's going to use this phone number you'll see in a future message notifying Bob, once we've scheduled the appointment, that he'll receive a call back 24 hours prior to the appointment. So what day? Next Tuesday. What time? 10 a.m. Thanks, Bob. Here's a confirmation. Does this look good? Yes. Now it's saying that Bob's going to get a call back 24 hours prior to his appointment. Now Bob still has some additional questions, so he's going to type no and go ahead and transfer out to the next available agent. Now let's move over to our agent experience. The agent is using an integrated agent desktop with a CRM. So when the contact is delivered, all of the information from the virtual agent interaction is presented, in addition to screen popping the contact ID, as well as creating the task. You can see that right behind the little window there. The agent is now superpowered and ready to serve the constituent without asking repetitive questions and identifying who the contact is or what the inquiry is about. That's a time saver and a whole lot less frustrating for Bob. So let's go ahead and walk through this. We've got our CRM here. Down at the bottom, we have a fully integrated agent desktop. Bob's going to go ahead and take himself out, or excuse me, the agent, Greg's going to take himself out of break mode. That chat is now delivered to Greg. He can accept the chat. You'll notice that there's a screen pop behind the agent console. Inside the agent console, it provides all of the context of the interaction with the virtual agent. In addition to that, we have all of the information about Bob, as well as a task to be created for the interaction. So finally, let's touch on supervisors. Contact Lens is an Amazon Connect. Ooh. Not sure what happened there. Hey, there we go. Oops. There we go. Let's touch on our supervisors. Contact Lens for Amazon Connect provides real-time speech analytics and sentiment analysis with artificial intelligence. Are you thinking, what does that mean? Well, I was. It means supervisors can build AI rules for utterance detection that will automatically notify them when a rule is triggered. It's very simple. But the power of that is that they can then choose to monitor the call real time and be able to interact, maybe with an IM message, to the agent to help resolve a difficult situation. Contact Lens also provides call recording, transcription, and PII redaction, personally identifiable information, for compliance if needed. Records can be stored and searched on the rules that are created as well. If you want to listen to every call that was a supervisor escalation over a period of time, you can. You can also use Contact Lens to create agent adherence rules for automating that process as well. There's so much more, but I'm going to turn it back over to Catalina for next steps.
All right, so I think we do have a few minutes for some questions. If anybody has any, raise your hand. Yes.
So we saw the happy day scenario, right? When we are talking about chat, specifically in chat, when they were typing without typos and everything. Mm-hmm. What happens if there is typo? What happens if there is an inconsistency in the message?
So we can use the sentiment detection in utterances to identify similar word matches. So we don't have to use exact word matches. We can choose to use exact word matches or similar word matches as well.
Any other questions? Any accolades? Any questions? No.
Right.
Yes.
Where are we at with FedRAMP status?
That's a great question. Her question was, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
The question was where we are with FedRAMP status. So the Amazon Connect solution is FedRAMP moderate. And my understanding, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is if you need a FedRAMP high, we can deploy on the GovCloud. So you guys might be familiar with GovCloud. In fact, there is a, oh no, I think that session is not happening. But there's more information. Please contact your AWS account manager. So I don't know if there are any more questions. I do have a, yes.
Can you enable two-factor authentication on the chatbot?
Two-factor authentication can be used with your chatbot, yes. There's multiple ways you can do the authentication, not only the voice biometrics, voice ID, for voice transactions, but to your point, through the chat interactions, if you'd like to use out-of-band authentication, you can absolutely do that.
Yes.
Thank you. Just a follow-up to that, not two-factor authentication, maybe that, but also voice recognition. So if I'm calling, I think you mentioned, you or Dr. that as I'm a caller, not necessarily a frequent caller, but is there a way to identify that I am who I am, saying that claiming to be, aside from the two-factor authentication, so that the chat box, before revealing the information about my account, there is an automatically some way biometrics, some sort of checking. Is there anything like that?
So typically, one of the mechanisms is to enable or to have the chat available in an authenticated environment. So let's say, for example, you log on to, like if you're talking about a chatbot, right? Log on with some mechanism and then have the interaction available within that private experience. If you're talking about voice, so the typical attribute that you pull from a call would be something like a caller ID, to dip into the customer profile to understand who they are, and then potentially you can run like a voice ID to get a better understanding of the confidence of who that person says they are. I don't know if that answered your question. Do you have more?
It does. If I may tag along one more clause to that. So think of a situation where I'm not logged in yet. IRS is one of our clients, right? So we're thinking of making virtual agent, but without having to log onto your account, you want to start a chat box, and then as the virtual agent sees that, okay, I need to pull up your information, then I need to authenticate. And at that point, instead of logging in, and where does it go? So is there a way to sort of voice-activated planning, like voice-activated voice recognition of authentication? That's what I was leading to.
So what we see happen a lot with chatbot specifically is if you'd like to be able to capture some information to authenticate the user, you might provide a form filler at that point where you provide access for the user to enter their information, and then you can either provide passcode authentication, out-of-band, one-time password authentication, or use other mechanisms for that.
Yes. Wait, I think the microphone is coming.
You talk about voice ID validation, recognition. How is that doing that? Is it using a sample that's attached to the accounts? And how do a lot of companies obtain that sample?
So, really good question. It is a voice print. So a user has to be enrolled for a voice print to be stored. So what we can do is we can actually, in the contact flow stream, have a block where a call will traverse that block and will start capturing all of the spoken words from that individual. Once that ultimately gets to the agent, if there's enough information, and there's generally 20 to 30 seconds of sampling to be able to authenticate that user and treat that as a print, the agent can then enroll that user, so subsequent times calling in, we would automatically sample and identify that user.
So there is.
Can you have something on your website says, hey, for easier access, go ahead and enroll yourself now and go through and have the customer provide a sample prior to their first call?
That's not something I'm familiar with. I'd have to get back to you on that.
I can answer that.
Oh.
Okay.
You do have to have an agent that validates your identity and your identity markers. So you do need that initial voice print to be created by the agent. It wouldn't be done through a website.
Right. Just for authenticate or security purposes.
Well, one thing you could do, both for this gentleman's question here as well as for other questions. One thing you could potentially do for both of these questions, leveraging the voice biometrics via a chat interface, is have your interaction basically trigger an outbound call from Connect to the user. Through the website to gather the voice print, then you would connect them to an agent. If you want to just authenticate them, you could do an outbound call and have the IVR interact with them to authenticate them and then pass an attribute over to the original chat contact and say, hey, this person's authenticated now. So there are ways to do it. You just have to be a little bit creative.
Awesome. So we have a few, any other questions? We're happy to take them.
So what kind of training data do you need for Q&A chat?
Did you hear the
Can-
question?
can you
The
repeat that,
question-
please?
The question was, what kind of training data do you need
Yeah.
for Q&A chatbots?
So So we can actually build either a couple of different ways. We can either build a database where you can enter your questions as well as answers, or we can leverage your existing knowledge bases. By utilizing the inherent services inside of the Q&A bot, we can either point that to your existing HTML knowledge bases or other documents that you may have posted somewhere in your network. So it'll leverage the existing knowledge base and return answers based on the Q&As that you have in that knowledge base.
Well, thank you.
Excellent. Any final takers? All right. So one thing I do want to do is just say thank you to everybody. You, unbeknownst to all of you, today is my 1-year anniversary at AWS, and I am celebrating it by being in front of all of you. So thank you so much for your time and attention today, because it really means a lot. Amazon Connect, once I learned about what it was, I hightailed it, and I was like, I got to get over there. So I hope that this was helpful and useful to you. In addition, we do have, and I apologize, Biz 201 happened this morning, so you cannot attend that any longer because you cannot turn back time. Unfortunately, as much as Amazon Connect can do, it cannot, time travel. But there is a panel discussion from one of our partners that has done a solution, and then we have a federal session, which I think has a really, really clever name. A call center to action, and then tomorrow one of my colleagues is presenting a solution on a level 300. So it's going to be nice and meaty from a technical perspective, improving the constituent engagement experience through video chat. So I hope that you guys can find time to make it to these sessions. Also, please don't forget to take advantage of the additional resources that we have available within AWS to level up your cloud skills. We encourage you to get engaged with all of these. So QR code, you've seen them in every session. I'm not going to spend too much time here. Again, from the team here, we are super thankful that you were able to come today, and we hope this was a useful session for you. Have an awesome rest of your summit. Thank you. Oh, and don't forget the survey. Thank you. But if you are not going to give us 5 stars, then forget the survey.